I'm Senator Adam Hollier, and this is the We Can Do Better podcast. I am super excited to have my friend Donna Gibbons-Davidson on, and she is just an amazing kind of eclectic person that does so many things. So I don't want to put her in a box of who she is or what she does. I'll let her say who she is and where she's from and all that kind of stuff so that you get a chance to get to know her so much better.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Donna Gibbons-Davidson, and I met Adam actually when he was a little boy, I think, or maybe not. I don't know. I was at Vanguard Community Development Corporation, and Adam was a member of our after-school activities program while a student at Flicks, and met him again as an adult when we were working. Actually, I think it was during campaign season or something.
Yep.
And you were first looking at running for state senator. You hadn't really declared for the race.
Yep.
And we just had some dialogue. So it's been interesting getting to know you over these past a few years.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because, you know, our relationship is like that of so many Detroiters. It's like someone says, do you know Donna? And you're like, no, I don't really know her. And then we meet and it's like, we know all the same people. And they're like, oh, well, you know Adam because you were here and he was there. And, you know, and so I always think that's funny. You know, when you said your husband was my art teacher, I was like, yeah, I remember that. And he's probably like, he's not as good as his sisters, but, you know.
He would never do that. You know, that's just not his personality. Of course, he had a close relationship with your sister. They worked together a lot more. I think she did some work at the museum.
She did.
But yeah, it was interesting, you know, and I was talking about you one day and I was mentioning Adam Oley and he said, that's one of my students. So no, he says it really enthusiastically, not like, oh, that scrub, you know. Now I have to tell you, I had art classes when I was a young girl and there was a famous artist. I'm not going to mention him. My mother put us in the classes when we were kids and my older sister, Rachel, and I were in this class together. And so all of her pictures were pinned to the wall and she was like the model student and he would take mine, ball them up and throw them in the trash can.
Oh, no.
So my mother came in one day and saw him balling my papers up. I mean, I was little, like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
I guess he was just frustrated with my lack of visual arts talent. So, you know, I know what it is to have an older sibling who is just gifted at art and you're just like trying to make it.
The irony is it's my younger sibling, but you know,
okay. Well, a sibling.
Yeah, I'm very self-aware about my talents and gifts, and she has them and does those kind of things. We have a healthy lack of competition in our household of kind of understanding really well where each other are in space. So my little sister makes jewelry, does all those kind of things, and is truly an artist. I am a lot, you know, I think the profession that I'm in is where I show my art in that level of creativity and space. People always joke about how I'm a very out of the box thinker in that regard.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of myself as out of the box thinker too. You know, I don't like being in anybody's box, you know, so I can relate to that. You know, I think, you know, try to always think out of the box because I think that's where you find your answers.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny, you know, in art, and one thing that, you know, you kind of learn in those spaces, the people who are out of the box thinkers aren't out of the box thinkers to themselves. That's the only way that things make sense. And I think that's something that you often come to when you talk about the lens with which you do your work, right? So I know we were talking a little bit about the Leaf District and how it used to be the Lower East Side Action Plan. And you were like, people were like, well, why are we the Lower East Side? Is there a better, you know, it's like, just geographically, and like, no, that's not what we're going to be. What is Leaf doing? How should people, you know, what are you?
Well, I guess I'll introduce myself so people can know what I do. I'm the president and CEO of the Eastside Community Network, which is a nonprofit on the east side of Detroit that is engaged in community development. And we are in our 37th year. And over the past 12 years, we've been working on an initiative called LEAP, which is an effort to build resident voice and engage resident leaders in a planning process that gives us input and influence over what happens inside of our community. And it has many different faces. There's many different things that we do with LEAP. We equip leaders with the skills and resources to implement their own programs. We interface with public officials. We really work to have community education series that we call Stakeholder Advisory Group, where we bring speakers in and talk to the community, and we try to solve shared problems. But yeah, I mean, when I got here, Lower East Side Action Plan is what we called it. And people said, why lower? And it's like, Lower East Side of New York, why lower?
Yeah.
When we are in Southwest Detroit, you don't say Lower West Side, it's Southwest. So why aren't we saying Southeast? So we decided to change our name to the LEAP Coalition, keeping LEAP because it's a lot better than SEEP. But
especially in a place where water is not always your friend.
Oh, listen, it just doesn't sound good. There's this, yeah, exactly. Seep, that water seeping into my basement is the way I look at it. But, we live in this world where we have these problems, and the problems are not going to get fixed in our community, in any community really, but in our community in Detroit, they're going to be fixed through using, traditional methods of intervention. Our housing problems are almost intractable with our current system. Our environmental problems are almost intractable. And indeed, we are dealing with a warming climate.
Yes,
and we have people talking about climate change, like if we can just increase the mileage per gallon in cars a little bit more, we're going to fix this thing. Or if we can just decrease the use of, fossil fuels a little bit more. And it's like, that is not the issue. Our whole way of life as a Western culture is the issue. And I had an opportunity to teach a group a couple days ago. And, I went down on it. I didn't want to just give back that same talk. I wanted to talk about what is the root cause of all of this, right? And so I said, I went down because I always worry, did I go too far? Did I go too far off topic? Are people going to be annoyed with what I'm saying? Because it's not really the topic. But if you really want to change climate change, we're not having dialogue about the fact that we are still poisoning our community. I mean, the Stellantis plant, formerly Fiat Chrysler plant behind us, has been hit with 3 toxic air violations since August. Think about that. And it's a brand new plant. And when they got their permit to pollute our community, because you have to get a permit to pollute from the state, they got this permit to pollute by promising to reduce pollution in Warren. They got this permit. When they did, they said, hey, we're going to use this really super duper, great technology that's never been used. This is going to be the most efficient plant in the history of automotive plants. And then, one of the citations is they don't have ductwork to direct the poisoned air into this super duper technology. So it's going out into the air. And so it's like, okay. So I have, just a few thoughts. One of them is the toxins are paint. This is toxic paint. And, I like a pretty car like anybody else, but why are we putting toxic paint on cars? Why are we polluting the atmosphere and placing lives at risk so our cars can be shiny and have nice colors? Aren't there water-based paints that would be less damaging to the environment?
It's a really interesting difference, right? So just yesterday, I was in Hamtramck with the president as they were talking about the new Factory Zero. And the goal of the GM plant is zero emissions, zero accidents, zero, zero, with this shift dramatically for not just what is being produced, but how they're producing it. And so it's an interesting discussion as we start to think about what is the right answer to these questions and how do we get there?
Right. And then, I have questions about how this battery technology is going to be produced. Is there going to be toxic waste produced as a result of this? And if so, who will be exposed and where will it be stored? We have to think systems. And then even if you had this, zero emissions car, are we going to put toxic paint on top of it? When are we going to decide that we're going to stop poisoning our environment and do things differently? And I know you can't do that overnight, but it feels like, paint is the thing that you could do. I was watching a documentary about the Ramapo Indians in New York. They're mountain Indians. And they're not necessarily recognized as a tribe because there's black and white. They're very interracial, very racially mixed. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not, but I am very familiar with that kind of a history. Like there is being Native, there are a number of Native communities that were not recognized because they never signed treaties with the United States to be removed. And so a number of the people who actually ended up staying in their Native spaces were lost, and particularly Black Native people.
Yeah. So this is this group of Black, but they're not all Black, but they're definitely Black natives in this Ramapo tribe, and they're up in the mountains in New York. Well, there was a Ford plant there, and they painted these cars with this beautiful shiny red paint. And the beautiful shiny red paint, the waste, the excess paint, and some of the other toxins produced at that factory were dumped into these caverns under the mountains. And all of that poisoned the people who lived there. And so, you have super fun cleanups that would come through and they say, okay, we've cleaned it up, but all they do is cover it up with rocks. Like, maybe I don't understand geology well enough, but isn't there groundwater, and doesn't groundwater move from place to place? And so, you get it in the groundwater, you've got to remove it. So you remove it, but where do you take it? At some point, we're producing unnecessary waste. And it just makes you wonder, why do we have to have candy apple, shiny red cars? And, I love the color red. I love red lipstick. You'll see me with that, but I don't understand the shiny red candy apple car. And if I found out that people were dying or getting cancer because I'm wearing this red lipstick, I'd probably stop and find a different color or just, do the natural, whatever. I mean, the reality is, we like things aesthetically beautiful. We talked earlier about the fact that my husband is an artist. My mother's an artist. I certainly came up in a world, and I now live in a world surrounded by all of these aesthetic flourishes that I really enjoy, never being gifted in arts myself. But when it comes to life itself, I don't understand it. And we've had people who've been able to create beautiful things through the centuries and never having to poison other people in that process. So,
and I think you're right. There's something we've got to stop with if we have this, then it means this other space, and not localizing that issue, right? So you talked a little bit about, the Stellantis plant and, being able to defer that in warm. That doesn't help the people who live in, Jeff Chalmers. It doesn't help the people who live on Beneteau. It doesn't help the people who go to Southeastern, right? If there is a local issue, it needs local remediation, right? It needs to be saying, well, we're going to do more tree planting there. We're going to do more screening. We're going to do more things.
Or relocation, right? When people are living, if you decide to expand, offer people the option of relocating. It's one thing to take somebody's home through eminent domain and force them to move, like it happened in Poletown Plan, and there are people who are still upset about that, right?
Yes, there are.
But it's another thing to say, we will not move you. We'll build a 6-foot wall.
And you've seen
something to buffer anything.
And you've seen some successes with the way Marathon's buyout program worked in Delray. Everyone hasn't moved, but there are people who wanted to move and who were able to move and be more successful. So I think that the big issue is if we figure that out, we got to figure out good places for people to go, right? You have so many folks where they're like, well, yeah, you can buy me out of my house, but it ain't worth nothing. So you got to give me enough to be able to move into another space that makes sense. And ideally into a space where they can stay in their community, where their social safety network is.
Absolutely. And, relocation is different than buying me out. If I could just sell my house in the market, like you said, my house is not necessarily worth things because you put a plant here. And the minute this plant expanded, the value of my house declined, or the existence of your plant means my home will never achieve real value. That's not the point. The point is I deserve to live with dignity. Buy me out. You make so much money every year and you spend money as you need to. But I think it also speaks to the municipal leadership, because I remember when it was first announced and Mayor Duggan was bragging, hey, nobody has to move. And there were people who saying, I want to move. And so there's a liquor store not far from there. And the owner came to all of the community benefits meetings and he says, buy me out. Listen, They shut down the entire street, St. Jean, and his customers used to drive down St. Jean after work to buy some liquor and I guess he has other things. And so his thing is, listen, buy me out. Well, I don't feel as bad for the liquor store as I do for the person who's living there and who really doesn't have the same options, because I think the liquor store is still doing pretty well. But I don't know. I'm just guessing, the parking lot seems full when I drive by. But there was also on the table a decision to purchase our building because we are also adjacent to that toxic usage. And now if you drove down to my office today, you'd see how terrible it is. They're redoing the streets and there's so much truck traffic on Connor. It's ridiculous. And then, we just had the floods and that the Connor Creek pumping station is right there on Connor and Jefferson, right? And so right next to the Connor Creek pumping station, I don't know who owned the land. There was this huge parcel of land that was just undeveloped. And somehow in the process of developing this new plant, Crown Enterprises, the Maroon Company, got this land. And they put a trucking center there, this huge trucking facility that, now you have hundreds of trucks that are parked there and in transit there. I don't really understand, because I don't know anything about trucking, what exactly they do there, other than it's a mess. It's on Jefferson. It's a bunch of cement. I don't see any evidence that they've done anything to manage stormwater on this huge piece of cement and this big building they did. And it's like, at what point are we saying you can't do this close to the river, this close to a pumping station where you already have so much flooding in our community?
Well, that kind of gets to this issue of planning and thinking forward into, the offensive space, right? Like, I think that's one of the things that LEAP and ECN have always been, pretty forward thinking about envisioning how they would like their community to be, not just do not do this in my neighborhood. What are the other things that you're working on? And I know we'll, before we get out of here, we'll talk about the Meyer Wellness Center, which has been just, coming along every day and a big and important project. But as you start talking about what you want the neighborhood to look like, what is that?
Well, I think climate equity has to be front and center to everything that we do. I think everybody should be looking at it. We had the floods this summer. We expected to have high heat days that would be, toxic to people who are living in homes without air conditioning, without adequate electricity and the like. But we address, climate equity in a whole lot of ways. We do a lot of education. We're doing advocacy. We have pilot projects where we are trying to retrofit homes with blue and gray infrastructure that are in emerging flood zones so that those homes don't experience flooding. We have created a resilience hub, and we're working with others, including the Sustainability Office for the City of Detroit, on creating a resilient Eastside pilot project where we can take existing buildings and retrofit them into resilience hubs. And, on super cold days, on high heat days, the city always says, go here if you need help. Well, we want to make sure that here is not miles away, but inside the neighborhoods where people who need the most help are located. And that includes our facility, the Meyer Wellness Hub, but also other facilities that are either planned or currently existing in our community so that people have access to that. And, also that we can distribute resources there, vaccines, that kind of stuff. We have youth programs. We have a teen center. We have a teen advisory council. We are providing sustainability education to teens. We're providing college and career planning to teens. Excited about that. We're working on Mack Avenue, and actually, I believe that the state of Michigan gave a grant of $200,000 to us to assist us in our planning on Mack Avenue, where we are trying to figure out a new streetscape solution for that stretch of land that would help unite Detroit with the Grosse Pointe side of the streets. And the value of that is we want Grosse Pointe money spent on the Detroit side of the street. We want Black business owners in our community to be able to open up business and make money there. And we want to create more amenities for people who live in Detroit. So the city has focused on Warren. We focused on Mack. And we also are helping entrepreneurs. We're providing small business grants. We provided, I believe, 5 grants to small businesses, 6 grants to 7 to small businesses that were harmed by the floods. We've installed well, when all is said and done, we will have installed 20 hot water tanks in homes
Mm-hmm.
of people who were flooded and lost their hot water tanks. We have a fellowship, sustainability fellowship, where we're training leaders in our community on sustainability issues. And last year we had a smaller class. I think we had about 8 people, but we have 19 applicants for our sustainability fellowship this year and counting. So it's really exciting.
Did you steal some from your Columbia course? You got some of those Columbia students coming in?
No, those Columbia students stay at Columbia. All they do is listen, it really helps me grow as a leader to understand the international perspective and to be able to teach and work alongside my teaching assistant. Well, my teaching assistant at Columbia is now on strike. Columbia student workers have joined the UAW.
Oh, have they?
Yes. So it's the Columbia UAW student strike. So I no longer have a teaching assistant, but power to the people. I'm teaching about the UAW in class, and then my TA joined the UAW and started striking. She's like, "I will not be here." And I said, "Okay." Anyway,
that's super funny because when I was in undergrad, there was a legal case about whether or not TAs could unionize at private institutions, and they could, and then they couldn't. And then when I went to the University of Michigan, I was back at a public university. I was my union steward for GEO. So it's funny how those kind of things kind of run full circle. That that's why elections matter. The president determines who runs the industrial, the labor relations board, and they make a lot of these decisions. And all those things matter in ways you wouldn't think about.
Yep. So we do have our Stoudemire Wellness Hub. I'm trying to think of, is there anything missing? I always forget some things. We're a landlord. We have a couple of properties where we lease space to nonprofits, including a Head Start at Matrix Center. And we have Zero Clearcore Detroit, which provides household environmental support. But we also have retrofitted our headquarters into the Stoudemire Wellness Hub, and I'm really excited about that.
Let's talk about that. I know we've got a planning meeting coming up, and I'm excited about all the work that we're doing. And just for the audience, if you want to just kind of introduce who Marlo Stoudemire was, how you decided to name the space after him, and what it means.
Yeah. So in March of 2020, somewhere I think around March 23rd, Marlo Stoudemire.
It was go ahead. Sorry.
Marlo Stoudemire is the first person I know who died from COVID-19. He was 43 years old at the time. And when he died, it really just knocked me off my feet because I don't know if people remember, but first of all, we didn't have COVID in the United States. It was that Chinese disease. And then it was going to be only old people. And I don't know if you remember, people believed Black people couldn't get COVID.
Oh, I remember.
But there was that
I remember. And
they were in Africa and nobody got it. That melanin is going to protect us from COVID. And, of course, many of us didn't necessarily trust that, but I really did not suspect it was going to be this bad. But here I am at the time I'm 57 years old, and a 43-year-old man died of COVID, and it just knocked me out. I was like, how did that happen? And, he had a podcast, and his podcast, he would say, take care of your health. The last time he in his podcast, it was a YouTube podcast. He said, make sure you take care of your health. I haven't been feeling that well. I just got diagnosed with something. He didn't say what it was, and then he was dead. And I was trying to understand how this vibrant man, this intelligent man, this man with health insurance, his wife is an executive at Henry Ford Health Systems, who's friends with all of the executives there, who, lives a great life, how he could have been one of the first people to succumb. But Marlo is also a neighbor, right? He lives on the East Side. He lived on the East Side. And I was thinking about what is this, you talk about structural determinants of health or social determinants of health. We live in a community with no gyms. We live in a community with no artistic outlets. We live in a community where we're surrounded by industry in some places. And so, this is not always individual choice. When you go to places like Cancer Alley, places like that, it's not about the lifestyle, it's about the location. And what can we do to help prevent what then became a tidal wave of deaths in Detroit? What can we do to prevent that? So we had a tenant who had to downsize. And as All Wellbeing Services has been a long, good tenant of ours for years, providing services to disabled adults, and they had to leave. And it was like, okay, what are we going to do now? And so initially the thought was, let's get somebody else in. And then I said, what if we turned it into a wellness hub? We were already looking at a resilience hub. And I shared it with the executive committee. I was really excited. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, oh, okay, Donna, that sounds ambitious. Are we going to build another wing? Because the thing about it is this building is deceptively larger than it seems from the outside. And there's so many people who've never been on the other side. We have a 17,000 square foot building with another 5,000 square feet on our lower level. It's a newer building. It's in decent shape. We recently remodeled one side of the building. And so I thought, what if we put a fitness room in one of these large rooms that's about 900 square feet? What if we put a dance room in another room? What if we had an art room and a computer room, and people in the community could come here and congregate and have a community room where people can just hang out so that they don't have to be in hot places during summertime when high heats, in super cold places when it's really cold outside. And that they can be here and join with one another, because we've been socially isolated. And so we were thinking along those lines. The board finally decided I wasn't crazy and supported this. And staff came along, and then we started sharing our vision with other people and walking them through. And it's just been amazing, the kind of support that we've gotten from many, many different entities, whether it's the Detroit Health Department to the Community Health Corps, other places that are saying, we're trying to reach citizens in the city of Detroit, and we have no idea how to reach them in your community. And we provided a framework for that. But also we wanted to be fun. Last Friday, we had comedy night, Funny Fridays. And we had a packed house, as packed as you're allowing it to get on during COVID time. And, we had 3, Elton Williams and Howie Bell, and our own director of the Stoudemire, Daryl Earl came out and entertained the community, and they absolutely loved it.
He's funny.
Yeah.
I hear he's funny, right? Like, he's not just, he worked for us, so we let him do out of sit. He's funny. He's been on some places, done some things, right?
Oh yeah, he's on the wall of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And the first time I heard him, that's where he was. When I was doing reference checks, everybody gave me these professional references, and they were like, he's really, really funny. And so I've been using up all of the skill sets that people have. And that's, so he's been great. And, but anyway, so it's just exciting to me to, Funny Fridays is a thing. We're having Hustle on Saturday. We had a health fair, and spontaneously, all of the people just started hustling. And so that just made it fun, right? So I'm sitting in my office, being the Scrooge. I wasn't out there during the health fair. I wasn't being one of the fun crew. And I look up and everybody's dancing and having a great time. And that's part of wellness. So, Marlo, we're thinking, we don't just want to call it the Eastside Community Network Wellness Hub. We got to call it something interesting. Let's name it after somebody. And as I was saying those words, let's name it after somebody, Marlo Stoudemire came to mind. It's like always, because it was truly his life, and then his death was truly the inspiration for doing the work anyway. Truly trying to think through what could have been done to have stopped this. What could we do as a community to prevent this from happening again? It started with Marlo for so many of us. And so it is a Stoudemire Wellness Hub. We are still in the process of forming who we are, but we are open. We have so many events coming up. And the new mandate is you have to be vaccinated to come to our events. So if that incentivizes people to get vaccinated, that's great. We have an Eastside Summit on December 11th. We have our annual LEAP celebration on December 10th. We have Winter Wonderland or something like that on December 4th. And we're going to have a number of, activities. There's more activities. I can't even put my arms around. This Saturday, we're giving away 100 blood pressure cuffs. So, we stay busy. We are open to the community. We want the community to feel like this space is theirs. And we also have transportation. So there is no reason why anybody in a climate emergency should not be in a safe space, because we will give you a ride, we'll feed you, you'll have a good time, and you will be in a space that we're trying to make as beautiful as possible, because We believe that people, no matter their income level, no matter where you live, deserve to be in a beautiful place. And I suppose, although I was not gifted with my mother's art skills or Kevin's art skills, I do have a love of beauty and an understanding of how it can contribute to mental health and emotional well-being. And so I want to share that with our community.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And I know we've talked a little about this in the past, but I was with Marlo at Pancakes and Police. We were sitting together at that table when, so many people got COVID, and he obviously had it in that moment. And so when I first got the news that he had COVID, it was a call because I had close contact with Marlo, and so it's these kind of moments where we look back and we think, but for the grace of God, there am I, and thinking about really leaning in. And on my desk, I have a thank you note that I wrote Marlo, because, we had a great conversation. We were going to do more things together. Because, every time you would be with Marlo, he left you like, all right, and we're going to go do these, 10 or 15 or 20 things. Like, we've got this amazing plan. It's like, all right, Marlo, I'm in. I'm so in. And so I was like, hey, let's follow up. But I never sent it, and by the time that, that couple days later, and they were like, oh, well, he's got COVID. I was like, oh, well, let me give him a couple of days and he'll get over it and we'll check in. And then it was like, oh no, he's really sick. And then it's like, oh, and then it was, he's passed. And you're like, it's just one of those reminders that we only have a certain amount of time to do the things that we need to get done. And so that's why I'm so appreciative that not only did you named it after him, but that you took his moments and made them valuable, going forward. And so I know we got a chance to go through the space, and I'm excited about all the incredible work and things that you're going to do there. But the last, 18 months, year has been rough from a mental health standpoint. What are you doing, to take care of yourself? And I know you've had some personal life changes and a bunch of things that have gone different. How are you taking care of you?
Well, I did get married, so that was great. That helped take care of me. I married somebody who does a great job of supporting me. And that's always good, right? Love is makes the world go round. But my mother is 88 years old, and she has been in need of care, and I've been thrust into caring for her while also working and teaching and podcasting. And one thing I've realized is I'm not taking care of myself. And so I read something somebody posted today. I think it was Kat Stafford posted, saying no is self-care. And so my new thing is to say no. I think I'm a people pleaser, and I say yes when I should say no. And so I was in a meeting today, and somebody was saying, well, can you just send me your schedule and just try to find a time? And I said, I received a message today that saying no is self-care. So I will see you in the new year, but I cannot find the time, and I will not even try. Because, you know what I can do? I can fill up all of the empty spaces on my calendar, such as they are, and find a time. But what about me time? So that's something I have to do. I'm trying to remember to do things that are fun, every weekend. I'm also a grandmother, and so I go take care for my mother, work, caring for my granddaughter. And I love being with Luna, but we've got to figure out a way that Luna can hang with us and I can still do the things I like to do so that I'm engaging in self-care.
Well, I can respect that. It's so important. I often tell everybody that I live my life with airplane rules, right? Like I got to put on my mask first, because you can't help anybody if you can't breathe.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. What about for physical activity? As we talk about this world, I know everybody's space has gotten a little bit more difficult, with gyms closing and kind of those traditional gathering spaces not being the same. Everybody's kind of carve out their own new space.
I have been riding my bike, riding outside, and then I have an exercise bike. And so I have been doing that. And again, lately I have not scheduled time to do that. And so there's also this wake up call of, I'm getting back to that. So this morning I got back to it, and I have to just remember not to schedule things. The problem with Zoom is you don't have to go anywhere, and you can meet for 12 hours a day.
And people want that time. People are like, well, it's just Zoom. You can just pop on right and say,
yeah. So I just realized that I have to schedule that in. And I would encourage everybody to remember that you are as important as everybody else on your schedule. And when you don't tell other people no, you're saying no to yourself. And so I have to remember to say yes to me. And therefore, I have to sometimes say no to other people. That's, to me, self-care.
Yeah, well, I don't know if there's anything more that can be said after that. Donna, thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to doing all those. If people want to follow the work that you're doing over at ETN, how do they contact you? How do they stay involved in the work that you're doing?
So, we have a Facebook page, Eastside Community Network on Facebook, and we post pretty actively there. We have a website, ecn-detroit.org, and we keep that updated with information as well. And so visit our Facebook page, visit our website, and we have all of our staff listed there, so you don't have to come to me. You can look and find the person who you need to talk to. But if you need to talk to me, then I'm happy to try to find some time in 2022 to have that new conversation, right? I already know you. I'll try to have that right now. But this has been a really busy year. We've done a lot. I'm really proud of all that we've accomplished organizationally, but nothing comes without a lot of effort. And so wellness has to start at home. Our staff are worried that I have to start making sure that the staff are taken care of as well. So that's how you can contact us. You shoot me an email. I always respond to an email.
Well, thank you so much, Donna. This has been the We Can Do Better podcast with Senator Adam Hollier. And I have my very good friend, Donna Gibbons-Davidson, here from the Eastside Community Network, talking about all the incredible things that they're doing on the East Side, and particularly just kind of getting to know another person who's doing really good work.